Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel MiTutorials. I would like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a very happy new year. As most of you guys would have some new year resolutions or goals to achieve in this particular year, I thought it is best time for me to introduce a new series of tutorial on my channel which will help you learn Python in the field of data science and analytics. Now, a few months ago, I didn't know what Python could do, what are the capabilities of Python, or what even Python can be used for. So I opted for a course online from one of the reputed institute, and I learned Python, and I thought I will share the knowledge that I have gained from that particular course with all of you guys and help you learn Python as well so that you can excel in your career. So let's get started. So what exactly is Python and where can we use Python? So Python is basically a language which can be used in various domains. It can be used in artificial intelligence. It can be used in machine learning. Now, what exactly is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is basically a simulation of human intelligence processes by machines. In other words, it mimics the problem solving and decision making capabilities of the human. Example, you must have come across Siri, which is there in the iPhone, or Hello Google on your Android phones, which basically uses the artificial intelligence to understand what you are trying to tell Siri and convert that into a particular action. So this is where artificial intelligence comes into play, and Python can be used to create that particular artificial intelligence. Now, likewise, machine learning. Machine learning is basically a type of artificial intelligence, or I can call it as a branch of artificial intelligence, which uses data and algorithms to imitate the way humans learn. For example, machine learning can be used to recognize an image. For example, if you give an image to machine learning model and ask to recognize if this is a cat or a dog, machine learning can do that based on the learning that we have provided to that particular model. Now, machine learning can also help in identifying, let's say you're working in a bank, and it will help you in identifying if the customer, a new customer who's applying for a loan, is going to default or not based on the previous data that you have in your database. Now, Python can also be used in the field of data science and data visualization. It can also be used in programming applications. It can be used in web development. You can create websites with Python. You can also create some games on Python. So Python basically can be used for various things, but for this particular series of tutorial, I am going to stick to the data science and analytics part, wherein we're going to deep dive into data analytics and visualization using Python. So how do you get started with Python? Where do you actually begin with? So the first thing what we will do is let us first install Python. Now there are various tutorials available on YouTube on how to install. I am going to quickly show you the way how you can install or use Python in two ways. One is you can install something called as Jupyter Notebook on your machine and start coding with that particular notebook, or you can create a Python notebook on Google Colab and start using without having to install anything. I'm going to quickly show you both the ways of doing that. So let's get started. So let's go to Google and type in download Python, and you can visit the first website over here and click on download Python. The Python file gets downloaded. You can run this particular file, click on install now. So once the setup is successful, let's close this and let's go back and open a new tab, and let's go to Google, and here let's type in download Jupyter Notebook. On the first link over here, if you scroll down, you will see install the classic Jupyter Notebook with pip install notebook. Just this one piece of line over here, let's copy this and press Windows R and type in CMD and press enter. Over here, let's paste in this particular line over here and click on enter. So once this is done, this will install the Jupyter Notebook. Once this is installed, we can type in Jupyter Notebook and press enter here, and this will launch a new Jupyter Notebook for us. And then over here we can click on new and select Python 3 over here. And this is our Jupyter notebook. This is one way of creating a Python notebook, and the other way is obviously using the Colab. And for that, I will go to Google and type in Google Colab. You need to click on the first link over here. It will take you to Google Colab, and you will have to log in through your Gmail account over here. And this is the first screen that you will see over here. And you can click on the file. If you don't see this particular menu over here, you just have to click on this particular drop down to see this menu. You can click on file, click on new notebook. And now you're here in the notebook where you can start coding right from this particular screen. Now, the benefits of using Colab is basically you don't have to install anything on your machine. Everything is there saved on the cloud. It is easier to share the Python notebook files with anybody. And to get started, what you need to do is you need to click on this particular connect button over here. This will take a couple of seconds and it will get connected. So another benefit of using Google Colab is basically you get around 12.68 GB of RAM and about 107 GB of space to compute your Python notebook. You can use 12.68 GB of RAM to run the code. Sometimes when you are using large data set, you need to have a lot of RAM to execute that complex code, and it becomes easier if you have Google Colab to do that. So let's get started with Google Colab because it's easier for you to just log in, set up and get going. So let's write some piece of code on Google Colab today and let's learn how to use that. So over here you can rename the file over here. So let's change this to first tutorial. From this notebook, there are two types of cells. One is we have something called as code where we actually write the code and execute. And the other is the text wherein you can type in, "Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel." So I have this sentence over here and this particular line over here will not be executed. And this can be also used as some sort of headers, or if you want to have some sort of information just before running a piece of code, you can do that there as well. I must have to admit that Python is one of the easiest languages to learn. You can do a lot of complex stuff with only a few lines of codes, and anybody can actually learn Python. Even if you do not have any experience with coding earlier, you can learn Python. So this is where my efforts are here to sort of help you learn Python language in one of the most easiest way. So let's get started now. So what we can do is first let's start with some basics over here. So if I type in 1 and click on this particular play button over here, it will run this piece of code and execute and return the output of this particular cell. If I write 2 over here and run, this will return 2 over here. And now I can add a new line by clicking on this plus code over here, and I can now type in 1 plus 1 and run this code over here. This will return me that the calculation 1 plus 1 is 2. I can also do another one. I can do some multiplication over here, 2 multiplied by 5, and run this piece of code over here. This will return me 10. Now this is obviously very basic calculations over here. Now let's add another line over here and let's type in 5 into 2 here, and then on the next line I'm going to do 6 into 6. If I run this code, what is the output going to be? Let's see. So the output here is only 36, but I was also expecting the output of 5 into 2, which is 10. But Python over here recognizes only the last line and prints that value as an output. However, if you want to see the output of both these lines over here, what you need to do is you need to add another line and write in a statement called as print, and then type in 5 into 2, and I'm going to copy this to the next line and type in 6 into 6 and run this piece of code now, and you will now see that it has now printed the outputs from both these lines over here. So please keep in mind that if you do not use the print statement, it will only print the last line of code and create an output for that particular line. We've created some basic calculations over here. Let's see how it works with the string values. Let's say I want to print a sentence which says hello and welcome to my channel MiTutorials. So how do we do that? So I will start in with my print statement, and I can open quotes over here, double quotes over here, and I will say hello, welcome to my channel MiTutorials. And if I run this piece of code over here, this will now give me the output, hello, welcome to my channel MiTutorials. Now you can also use shortcuts to run this piece of code. You can press Ctrl and Enter together and run this particular code over here instead of manually clicking on this particular icon over here. Now what if you want to run the code and also go to the next line or create a new line automatically? For that, what you can do is you can press Ctrl and Enter. That will take you to the next line and also execute this piece of code. Alright, so the first one is Control and Enter to run this piece of code, and second is Alt plus Enter, which will run this piece of code and also create a new line for you. Now within this piece of code over here, let's say you want to add some commentary which you don't want the Python notebook to execute, but it is there only for some information. You can use the hash sign over here, and let's say type in this is my intro. You can do that, which will give you additional information of the piece of code that you are writing over here, and then if you execute this will just execute the print statement. You can notice that when you use the hash over here, the color of this particular code turns into green, which means that this is a commented line or statement over here, and it will only execute this piece of code. Now let's move on to see how you can concatenate two strings. Now let's say if I want to concatenate hello world, so I will use the print statement over here. My first statement is hello, and then let's say I want to concatenate this with hello world, and if I execute this, I'm gonna get an output as hello world. Now you can notice over here I have used the plus operator to combine two text values, not just for the numbers. Here I am using the plus operator to combine two text values, and also if you notice here, this has not created a space between these two words. So what this particular operator does is it basically takes those two words and combines it together. It does not know where to add the space. So in this case, you will have to add the space manually. What you can do is you can do plus and enter a space over here and then run this piece of code. You will get hello space world. And now let's look at creating some variables. So I will add a new text line over here and call this as variables, because this is going to be my header line. I want this word over here to act like a header, so I'm going to click on this toggle header over here, and this was the size of the header that I will have, and then I'm going to add a new code over here. So what are variables? So variables are basically used to store some information. For example, let us say I want to store the value of 10 in a variable x. So if I will say x is equals to 10, what happens when I run this piece of code over here? So x is equals to 10. So what happens is this particular value, which is 10, gets assigned to the value x over here. Now, if I want to see the value which is assigned to the variable x over here, I will simply type in x and run this piece of code, and you will see the output of this x value is 10. Now, if I want to change the value of x, I will simply go back over here and change this to 20. I will run this and then I will run this. Now you will see that the value of x has become 20. Now let's see how we can create these variables and use them. So let's first create a variable called as cost and assign the value 100 to that particular variable. So cost is equals to 100. So let's run this and let's add a new piece of code and type in cost here, and if I run this code over here, this will return 100. And now let's create another variable over here called as product and assign the product name to this particular variable, which is product. And if I run this over here and let's add a new piece of code and type in product and run this, I will get the value as biscuit. And now let's create another variable called as quantity, and this I'm going to store 5 in that particular quantity variable, and let me return quantity over here. And so this will return 5, for 5 is assigned to quantity, and now the quantity is returning as 5. Let's say I want to print a statement, the cost of 5 biscuits is 100. Okay, now if I run this piece of code over here, this will return me the cost of 5 biscuits is 100. Now all of the information over here is hard coded. Now what if I want to use some variables within it? I can write a print statement over here. Let's say the cost of, comma, and then I have to mention the quantity over here. So instead of 5, I am going to type in the variable that we created, which is quantity, QTY, comma, and then followed by biscuits over here, which also is a variable that we have created over here. So I'm going to type in product, comma, and then I have space is, and then I'm going to type in comma, and then I also have the cost of the product over here, which is stored in the cost variable. I'm going to type in cost, and now I have the cost of 5 product is cost. And now I have the statement which says the cost of quantity product is cost. Now if I run this, I'm going to get the output as cost of 5 biscuit is 100. Now there is an error over here. Instead of biscuit, I want this to be biscuits. So what I need to do is I can simply come over here to my product variable and change this to biscuits, and then run this particular piece of code and come back over here, and I can simply run this, and this will change to biscuits. I don't have to make a change again over here. So now this has automatically printed the cost of 5 biscuits is 100. Now let's calculate the unit price of this particular biscuit. Now let's add a new line and let's calculate unit price. I'm going to create a new variable over here, unit underscore price. So the variables here cannot be created with numbers, starting with the numbers. It always needs to be in the string format. So I'm going to say unit price is equals to, so my cost divided by quantity, the variables that we have created over here, is my unit price. So if I run this over here, the unit price is now allocated with the cost divided by quantity, which is nothing but 100 divided by 5. So if I add a new line over here and run unit price and see the output of it, I've got the unit price as 20. Now I can add a new line of code and say print the unit price of, comma, product is, comma, unit price. Now if I run this, I'm going to get a statement which says the unit price of biscuits is 20. And now let's create some discount variable. So the discount, let's say the discount on this particular biscuit is 10. So how do we now recalculate the unit price of the biscuit? Let's add a new line of code. And now I'm going to create a new variable which says cost minus discount is equals to my cost minus discount. Okay, now if I run this, I did not run this code over here, that's why it says the disk is not defined. So now I've run this. Now it should give me an output which is the value of cost minus discount being assigned to cost minus discount over here. Let's see the value assigned to this. Now the value assigned is 20, and now I can simply create a unit price after discount over here. Let's copy cost minus discount and replace this over here divided by quantity, and let's get the output of unit price, and now the unit price is 18 after discount. Now let's say you are given this information over here. The cost is 5,000, the product is chocolate, the quantity is 300, and the discount provided is 350. So now let's calculate the unit price of the product before discount. So I've now created a new variable called as unit price before discount, wherein I am dividing the cost by quantity and assigning the value of this to this particular variable, which is unit price before discount. And then I have a print statement over here, which is printing the unit price of, which is the string value within the quote. And then I have my variable over here, which is the product value chocolate. And then before discount is again within the quotes, and then I have my unit price before discount. So let's run this particular statement over here and see the output of this. So it says the unit price of chocolate before discount is 16.666668. However, there are a lot of decimal values over here. What we can now do is there's a function called as round within Python, and you can type in round, open bracket, and then followed by comma and 2 for 2 decimal places. And then let's run this now. I forgot to add another parenthesis over here. Let's run this piece of code, and you will see that it has now been rounded to 2 decimal places. If you don't need any decimal places, you can simply enter 0 over here and run this code again. You will see that the value has been rounded off, and now it is showing as 17. And the same way, if we have to calculate the price after discount, what we can do is we can add a new code over here, price, and rename this variable as price after discount, and change this to cost. Within the brackets over here, I'm gonna say minus discount variable, which we have over here, cost minus discount divided by quantity, and the unit price of product after discount is unit price after discount. Okay, I'm gonna leave this at 2 variables over here, even this with 2 decimals over here, and run this code, and then run this code as well. Now it says that the unit price of chocolate after discount is 15.5. Now this is how you can use variables within the Python and call them over and over again in your piece of code. And these variables become really helpful as we go forward and learn more about Python. This is the first tutorial. I don't want to burden you with a lot of information. Let's go step by step and let's learn bit by bit, and so that it doesn't become too complicated for you. But one thing that I want to mention is that these tutorials, only if you're watching, and if you're not learning or practicing it, is not going to help you at all, even 1% of it. So please make sure that you give some time every day in practicing these codes, and because it might look very easy when you look at these tutorials, but trust me, when you get down and start writing the piece of code, you will see some difficulties. You will come across some challenges which you have to overcome. So I would request you guys to please spend some time every day and just follow the tutorials or what I'm doing over here, and just create the code by yourself, and let's learn Python in this year. I will also share a link to this particular notebook file in the description of this video. Please do check it out and see how you can practice this more efficiently. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any feedbacks for me, please do let me know in the comment section. I will try and improve as much as possible. So that's it for today. I will see you soon in the next tutorial. Until then, please subscribe to my channel and also click on that bell notification icon. So whenever I post the next tutorial, you will receive a notification. Thank you so much for watching.